I'm Gemma Rolls Bentley, a curator and writer, and I'm here at Dulwich Picture Gallery looking at the new display Curtain Up. And I'm so excited that I'm here with Travis Alabanza, amazing artist, writer, playwright, performer, who actually features in the exhibition. So thanks so much for coming and looking at the display with me. The reason that myself and Lucy West, the curator at Dulwich Picture Gallery, came up with this idea is because as part of the gallery's ongoing series Unlocking Paintings, Edward Alleyne, who gifted his extensive collection of paintings to the gallery, was heavily involved in the theatre. He was an actor himself, and his collection included loads of paintings of playwrights, actors, scenic designers, and it created a really nice starting point for an exploration into the history of theatre. And as we began uncovering some of the stories, we realised there's all these beautiful queer moments and stories about trans experience and the theatre being a really important meeting place for the LGBTQIA+ community. And it's been really exciting to shine a light and uncover some of those hidden stories. So Travis, here we are in the show. You've had a little look around. What are your first thoughts on the display?
You know, I can sniff out a cross-dresser from a mile off. And so for me, I just love seeing that, you know, it's an ancient practice. For as long as there's been a stage, there's been people dressing up. And it's really nice to see how that's influenced throughout time.
Yeah, and that's just one of the exciting things, isn't it, about the creative arts, is that we as queer and trans people know that we've always been there, but because of the way histories have been told and recorded and erased and suppressed, it's not always easy to find those moments and those reference points and the ancestors. But when we do find them, it's so validating and important.
Definitely, and I feel like also sometimes in a gallery, you make assumptions about who's in there and who's not. I know for me, if I see like a certain style pose or a certain style outfit, or there's a texture that you're like, oh, that's 1800s. And you're like, I must not be here. And what I like about this room is you might think that on first glance. And then if you do a little digging or sniff closer, you're like, oh my God, we were always there. I wonder if you could tell me about the one just behind here.
Yeah, it's so exciting that we have this work central to the display. It's the first painting people will see when they come in, and it is by an extremely talented young painter called Lulu Bennett.
Gorgeous.
And Lulu is, as you can see from this, she is a real painter's painter. That's how I would describe her. She's such a painting geek. She goes so deep into art history. She really researches everything she's doing. There are lots of references here to different art historical moments. It's so rich with references to painting, historical painting, contemporary painting, you know, and just different kind of cultural moments. And I've followed Lulu's painting for several years, and I knew that she had been making this body of work in which she features herself. We can see the central figure wearing the hat.
In the background.
That's right,
Okay.
yeah, in the hat. And this is her alter ego, Samantha Pepys.
I love Samantha Pepys.
Isn't
What a
she
name. What a good
gorgeous?
name. Okay, great.
And she also performs as Samantha Pepys. So as well as painting, she performs the character. And Samantha Pepys is, of course, inspired by Samuel Pepys, the diarist, who wrote a lot about time travel. And there's something about Lulu's work that is very much about, through her own trans feminine experience, being a time traveler and embodying different spaces and finding those different cultural reference points that help her make sense of her own identity, and she brings them all into the painting. But when Lucy and I went and did a studio visit with Lulu, she told us she picked up her first copy of Samuel Pepys' diaries across the road from Dulwich Picture Gallery in a bookstore.
I love that. So the full circle of them being here as well. And centre stage, you know, as well. And it kind of, for me, frames the whole exhibition. Like there's this like vibrancy and colour that almost the transness invites in, that then kind of seeps out into the rest of the work.
Totally, and this painting really holds its own, which to do that in such a prestigious art gallery, you know, Dulwich Picture Gallery is the world's first purpose-built public art gallery. So it's really an important and kind of meaningful context for contemporary artists to have their work in.
I'd be amiss not to say that I am, of course, feature in this gallery exhibition, but that's not why I'm here. I'd love to know who I'm paired with. Was there a reason particularly why I was put next to someone that does look like I would find them at Dalston Superstore on a Saturday night?
I mean, that's one of my favourite things about putting this show together is we see all these different characters who've got connections to the theatre, and I just think they look like our friends.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
These are definitely people that we would have hung out with, or we have hung out with, or that's just kind of also something cool, I think, about being part of the queer community. We're so good at building community because we have to, but it's intergenerational and it kind of happens through space and time.
Yes.
And I feel like this chap, Nathan Field,
for now, although judging by the pearl earring, I think I'll be at Nathan Field's name-changing ceremony in about 2 weeks.
Sweet old Nathan, painted here in his undershirt, which would have been pretty scandalous. This was definitely a private painting.
Okay.
You know, when Lucy was looking into the history of this work, she said this would have been perhaps for an admirer, for a chirps, who knows? You know, this is
an amazing grinder pic.
This is exactly it. This is social media. This is dating profile right here. This is old school dating profile. This is his thirst trap.
Just showing a tiny bit of chest.
Yeah, exactly. But Nathan Field played Epicene, which was the character in a play that Samuel Pepys reviewed. And then 2 centuries later, the same character was played by Sarah Siddons. And there is a large portrait of Sarah Siddons in the gallery. Another person that we would definitely be friends with. She's just looks like a high drama queen, like larger than life. In fact, that painting is so big, it couldn't fit into this gallery. So it's further down in a larger space.
That's the vibes I wish to emulate.
Yeah, exactly. She's such a diva. And it's just this really interesting thing that 2 centuries apart, these 2 people were playing a different, the same character, but different genders, you know, and of course there were periods when it wasn't even legal for a woman to be an actor and to appear on the stage.
Yeah. Or even wear trousers.
Exactly, or even wear trousers. So I think what this kind of thing demonstrates is that the theatre has always been a space for pushing boundaries, for really kind of bold queer creativity. And that's something that, you know, you're continuing in your own work.
Yeah, I think about this all the time. Like, I think sometimes the recent pushback makes us try and think that all these things are new, or that what we're doing is a new thing to be afraid of. And what I just really love about the way this has been created is it just continually reminds us that it's always been a space where we have been doing it, and it's an ancient practice as well, you know. And I think that what's kind of beautiful is this moment. At first I was a bit shy about being on there, mainly because I wish I could have my makeup look like this every day. But I guess what was amazing, this is a photograph by the artist Rini Matic, and what was beautiful about this exhibition, that Rini had kind of followed me around to also my private moments. I'm so comfortable on stage and I'm so used to being photographed on stage, but actually those behind the scene moments are something I try and sometimes protect. And I think Rini, being the incredible artist Rini is, of wanting to find the honesty in photos and wanting to always document that kind of slippage between pose and candid, and how Rini kind of looks at like a snapshot of life, was like, well, actually there's no photos of you behind the scenes, there's no photos of you in the quiet moments getting ready. And this was before an awards ceremony that I was nominated for my work. I did not win the award. But this was pre that, with hope in my eyes. You can just see in the left eye there is the cash prize dwindling in front of me. But I remember I'm really nervous. I'm really confident on stage. And actually the moments before, I'm really nervous. And that dichotomy is something that hasn't been kind of captured before. So it's really nice having this snapshot. I think it was taken 3 years ago now, and thinking of like how nervous I was to see it. And I think there's something in that as well, capturing people in private.
Yes, in these private moments. And also, you know, Rini Matic as an artist, you know, they work with photography, but they also work in writing and performance, and they definitely don't describe themselves as a photographer. They talk about their practice being imaging. They image the world around them, whatever medium they're using. But the one thing that is consistent across all of their work is this tenderness of gaze, They
Yes.
find the people that they admire, they love, respect, and they really honour them and pay tribute to them in the way that Rini has captured you. And this was for a project that they did at the Martin Parr Foundation
Yes.
in Bristol. And you are, of course, a proud Bristolian.
Proud Bristolian, definitely. Yeah, and it was so special for this to kind of have its first life in Bristol, obviously with Martin Parr as well. But the fact that Rini didn't just follow me behind the like glitzy moments. Part of this series, Rini also followed me back to the council estate that I grew up on, to places that I'd kind of experienced violence or attack, and we like had this moment. It was so incredible, where one of the photos in the series is we were down this alleyway where, you know, I was always quite afraid to walk home at night, and we kind of just spontaneously changed halfway through into one of my stage outfits and took a picture in that alleyway. And I think that's what Rini does so well, is it's like the spontaneous in the moment, the capturing like that. And it leaves a kind of imprint, which, speaking of imprint, the other thing I'm so glad that is in here, I wonder if you could tell me a bit about this piece as well, because I just love that this is amongst kind of what I see as one of the most draggy paintings in here. And then we have this kind of imprint of makeup. And obviously, like, I know it's a modern piece of work, but what's interesting is I think it could also in some ways be an imprint from so many of these people too.
Totally. And I think having these contemporary interventions within the historic collection just really highlight the campness of so many of these paintings that are in here. So this piece is by Sin Wai Kin. And when Lucy and I started talking about, you know, building a display that explored the history of theatre, performance, and thinking about how queer and trans identity weaves through that, you know, one of the things I was talking about, something I've written about a lot and I think about a lot, is that throughout art history, queer and trans artists have not always been included in mainstream galleries and museums. And actually, where you find a lot of queer creativity thriving is in these underground spaces. It's on the stage, in the club, on a runway. And Sin Wai Kin is an artist who is kind of bringing all of those things together, because they are a performance artist. They also make videos. But this particular body of work, which is often just referred to as the face wipe works, is directly connected to their performance work. So they did a performance, and then at the end of the night, they took out just a bog standard face wipe from a packet they probably picked up from Boots. They put it on their face and they took their face off. So it captures the makeup, the artistry of that drag makeup, but then there is also literal blood, sweat and tears in here. It's like really kind of capturing the grind and how much hustle is involved in building out an artistic practice.
Yeah. What I love as well is I think so much of performance is like this thing that unless you were there, it goes. And so much of especially like queer nightlife love, because of where we maybe lack in archives, means sometimes we miss all these influences. And it makes me like, I mean, my favorite thing to do in a gallery is like imagine the lives of the people that I'm looking at. And it makes me think about how some of these performers from the 18th or 19th century were probably influencing arts and culture in ways they didn't know. And I think about that when I see Sin Wai Kin's work, because I'm like, oh, there's all this influence that spawns out, but this face wipe almost says like, oh, well, you must archive it. It's not going anywhere. Even if you miss my performance, I'm still going to be here, you know?
Exactly. And it's a trace of that. And that's the thing when you're in a historical kind of collection of paintings like this, you know, it really just makes you think about, you know, whose stories are not being told because of how history has been written, you know, and those dominant narratives, white, cis, heteronormative narratives. And you just think about all of the queer and trans people who haven't had their stories recorded or told. And of course, because of the work of Dulwich Picture Gallery and Lucy, you know, we're able to learn some of those stories, but so many of them have been lost forever or were never even kind of lived to their full potential because of the social limitations of the time. And you see something like this and to me, it tells a story about Wai Kin and this particular performance, but it also connects to all these ghosts of queer ancestors and people who have taken a role on the stage or have found themselves on a sexy, sweaty dance floor. You know, I love that.
Yeah, definitely. You can almost smell the East London coming off.
Totally.
So I think it's an hour train or a 30-minute EasyJet plane from East London to Dulwich. How long is this exhibition on for?
Well, this is here until October.
Amazing.
And there is lots of really brilliant programming that's planned. Sasha Coward, who is a historian, is going to be doing some tours that look at LGBTQIA plus history, and that will kind of bring another dimension to the display. And, you know, Dulwich Picture Gallery is just gorgeous. It has so much historical significance as a building, as a collection of paintings, but the programming here is so bold, you know, and I just think everybody needs to come and visit this and spend time with the work. And the work that's here is so brilliant. It's, you know, worth coming back to time and time again as well.
I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Travis.
Thanks for having me.